Hi, I'm Christina, and this is a book review of Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this is a historical fiction novel and it was published in 2025, and this was one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and it did not disappoint. I've given it 5 stars, and this is my 6th book by this author, and I have now given all 6 of her books that I have read 5 stars. So let me tell you a little bit more about this story. Our main character is called Joan. The year is 1984 and she is an astronaut at NASA. Now, she is sitting in mission control when disaster strikes on the mission, and then we follow this minute by minute. And then we go back in time to 7 years earlier when Joan was first applying at NASA. So her sister Barbara saw an advert that said NASA was looking for female astronauts, and this is something that Joan has always wanted to do. She is a professor at a university, and this sounds like an absolute dream to her. So she applies to become an astronaut, and then we follow her throughout that journey up until the moment that leads her to be in mission control when disaster strikes on the mission. Now, this is a beautifully written story, and I always find her writing to be beautiful. I always really enjoy her prose, and this is also a very emotionally charged novel. I think I started to cry before we hit the 80-page mark, which might actually be a new record for this author. I was so connected to these characters and so connected to Joan very quickly. And at its heart, this story is a love story, and it is a sapphic romance, and it's a very slow build sapphic romance. As they first meet, they are strangers. It is both their first day at NASA, and then their relationship blossoms into colleagues and friends and then lovers. And it really is a lovely relationship to follow, and it is a very slow build romance. There's no insta love or anything. It really takes its time to kind of develop their relationship. And I would say this is a love story in the traditional sense, as in it is a love story between our main character and a romantic partner, but it's also a love story in a couple of other senses too. So a very important person in Joan's life is her niece, and she is called Frances, and this is a beautiful love story between an auntie and her niece. And I absolutely loved the relationship between these two characters. I think it might actually have been my favourite relationship in the whole book. And I just loved seeing the way in which they interacted and the development of their relationship over time, and the way in which Joan views her as a daughter almost. Their relationship is so strong, and it was a lovely relationship to follow. And it's also a love story between Joan and her main passion, which is space. And I would say that this story is a love letter to space. Much like Carrie Soto is Back is a love letter to tennis, this is definitely a love letter to space. So Joan really has 3 main loves in her life. She has Vanessa, she has her niece, and she has space. And I really enjoyed following all 3 of those in this story. Overall, this is a very quiet love story, I would say. It is very slow build, and it's a love story that you can really root for. And there are so many themes that this book explores. We follow families, sibling relationships. The kind of relationship between Joan and her sister Barbara is very interesting, and very interesting to explore on the page. We have the relationship between auntie and niece, which I don't think you see very often in books. We also have the themes of love and passion, and exploring your identity and exploring your sexuality. And we also have the themes of not really understanding yourself and not really knowing who you are, and then finding out who you are, and determination and following your dreams and following your passions. And all of those are explored in this story. And I really enjoyed this book overall. It was a really lovely story. It is very emotionally charged, as I think all of her books are. And I will say though, I don't think this one is one of my new favourites by her. Yes, I have given it 5 stars because I really enjoyed it, but I really, really love some of her other books, and I don't think this one quite lives up to the rest for me personally. So as I said, this is the 6th book that I've read by her. So in terms of rankings, my favourite book by her is still The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And then my second favourite book is Carrie Soto is Back, then Daisy Jones and the Six, then Malibu Rising, and then this one, and then One True Loves. So actually, I really, really enjoyed this. I've given it 5 stars, but I don't think it's going to be a new favourite by her. And I think that's just because some of those other books were so hard-hitting and just are some of my favourite books of all time. And as much as I enjoyed this one, I don't think it's going to be a new favourite book of all time. It was a very good book and I definitely enjoyed it. I had a good time with it, but it's not going to go up there as one of my new favourites. But overall, yeah, I had a really good time with it. It is a very lovely book, and it also explores, obviously, a love story between 2 women in a time when 2 women aren't able to be together. And obviously, as they both work for NASA, and that is a government agency, they aren't allowed to be in a relationship together. And the fact is, if anyone were to discover their relationship, so much for them would be lost. All their friendships, their jobs, their careers, their passions. So there is so much at stake. So this is a love story with very, very high stakes, because obviously it's set in a time when these 2 women can't be in love with each other, but they very, very, very much are. So yeah, I really enjoyed it overall. I thought it was a really good book. And like I said, it's not going to be a new favourite by her, but it is a very, very good story. And I love Joan as a main character. She is genuinely such a lovely and likeable main character, and I just really enjoyed the way in which she viewed the world. Some of her kind of musings on philosophy and God and life, and the way in which she viewed the universe and the way in which she viewed space was really, really beautiful. She seemed like a very pure, lovely, kind-hearted character, and it's actually really lovely and really refreshing to have a main character who is so pure and genuine and lovely. She was a pleasure to read about, and I only ever wanted the very best for her because she was such a lovely, lovely character. And there's so many other characters in this who are brilliant characters. I really enjoyed a lot of these other characters. We kind of meet a lot of the other astronauts and a lot of the other people at NASA, and that's what makes this book so heart-wrenching at times, and why it made me cry, because obviously we know that disaster strikes and we know that not everybody is going to live in this situation. And when you really sit back and think about the impact of that on those left behind, that's what makes this story so heart-wrenching and so heartbreaking. But yes, really, really good book. I really enjoyed it and I would highly recommend it. If you have read this one, I would love to know what you thought of it down in the comments below. If you haven't read it yet but you want to now, definitely let me know that too. And let me know if you've read a few of her books. Which one is your favourite? Where does this one kind of sit on your rankings? I would love to know that. Alright then, thank you so much for watching. If you've liked the video, please do like it. And if you'd like to hear more of me talking about books, please do subscribe. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.